Everybody, break out your red wine and your white hats. It's time for the Nerdland Scandal Watch Party. For 1 hour on Thursday nights, the world stops for me and a legion of Scandal fans as we immerse ourselves in the world of professional problem solver Olivia Pope. She is an imperfect woman with perfect style. But she also happens to be the first African-American female lead character on a network drama to captivate the American viewing audiences since Teresa Graves premiered in Get Christy Love in 1974. With me at my watch party to talk all things Olivia Pope are a few of my fellow fanatics, Joy Reid, Heather McGee, and joining them is Andrea Platt, Associate Editor at Racealicious.com, and Janet Mock, founder of Girls Like Us and former editor at People.com. All right, right on. Well, okay, so we had Kerry Washington on just moments before Scandal launched, yes. In part because I suspected that this was going to be a big deal moment. So why do you love it? What is it you love about Scandal?
Scandal is a mess of a show, which is why I absolutely love it. It's Kerry Washington being an imperfect black woman in a culture where we are demanded to be perfect at all times, where we have to be on point. And even when we are on point, we're criticized for it. A good example would be the First Lady. Whenever she's doing anything, she's too this, she's too that, she's not enough this, she's not enough that. Her politics are not right, they're this, they're that. And for 1 hour, we're allowed to walk into a world where there's a woman who's powerful and wonderful and amazing, and yet has some very problematic things going on in her life.
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? Is that she can clean up a crime scene in a white dress, right? And it'll be completely bloody. She'll clean the whole crime scene, not a drop of blood. But then she's a complete mess in all of these other ways. She's certainly not like the respectability model of black woman.
Exactly, and I think it's called Scandal, right? Did we really expect like a moral representation of black women on television?
Yep.
And when I think of storytelling, right, when we talk about telling stories, we have to allow our characters to have their own dreams, desires, and flaws. And what I love about her is that she is a businesswoman who has a great great wardrobe, the bounciest weave on television, and she is fully in grasp of her lip quiver. Like,
I know, what is that?
Kerry Washington.
How can she do that?
Exactly, and she's the center of every room that she's in.
Yes.
And like she is not supposed to be perfection or like this heroine. She's supposed to be imperfect.
Yeah. So, Joy, I want to play you one of just a couple of my favorite Scandal moments and then get both of you to respond. So this one is a moment that, gosh, it just feels like it happens so often, particularly to black women in power. They've walked in to fix, she and her associate who works for her, who's a young white woman, and then this happens.
Top of the hour.
But there are other questions that need to be answered.
Hi, you must be Olivia Pope. I'm Olivia Pope.
Right, just that moment, right? You must be Olivia Pope. No.
Somebody said
over here. Yes.
I know. I can totally relate to that because when I did my interview to get into college, the woman who came to interview me sat in a restaurant next to me, literally next to me, for almost 30 minutes. And I was like, I'm just going to sit here until that lady figures out that I'm the person that she's here to interview for this Ivy League college. But yeah, no, we all understand that, this idea that you can't be the person I've heard about, that's this legendary fixture, that's this great businesswoman. It's got to be your white colleague. So we've all experienced that. So it's got those little moments, but it's also, it's kind of a great antidote to reality TV, where you've got this model of black women who are always throwing something at each other, always throwing shoes at each other, fighting, cat fighting, not quite got it together. Or you've got sort of the Good Times model, where it's like the long-suffering mom and wife that's got all the burdens on her back and she's super strong and she never breaks down and there's no problem. She's got all kinds of problems. The romantic problem is ridiculous. You're like, how do you even like this man? The President of the United States is a fool. Like, why do you even like him?
Horrible.
Right, but it's like you almost want to scream, but it's sort of like what you do with your girlfriends when they're in a bad relationship. And you're like, what is wrong with you? You've got everything going for you. Why do you like that guy? So it's got all that kind of visceral girlfriend part, but then you can also relate to the things you deal with in real life.
And Heather, there's this moment that for me, like on this race question, because we're talking about her as a black woman, but race is sometimes just sort of incidental. But there is this great moment. She is, of course, having an affair with the president. That is not really a spoiler alert at this point. And they have a fight at one point where she says this.
Somehow I've become this person who I have no words.
We are together. That's all that matters.
Really? Because I'm feeling a little, I don't know, Sally Hemings, Thomas Jefferson about all this.
I'm feeling a little Sally Hemings, Thomas Jefferson about all this, right?
No.
That is an exquisite moment in primetime television.
It's so fantastic. And first, let me just say, Demos doesn't actually have a policy on Olivia. So I'm going to take my think tank hat off for a second,
Exactly.
pull up my glass of wine, and just be Heather McGee for a minute. But it's true. It was so great that Shonda Rhimes put that moment in there. That we actually finally just said it. Because of course that's the subtext, right? You have this white president who has all the power in the world. There are always power dynamics going on in any relationship, specifically when it's got these historical sort of valences, and he's married, right? So she's the mistress. She's this sort of Jezebel, right? Is the sort of stereotype that it's playing with. And then what comes back in that same episode is this sort of amazing scene in the garden where she says, I feel owned by you, I feel controlled by you, right? So you're really going there. And then suddenly he says, like, you know, tears in his voice, you own me, you control me, I'm basically a slave to you and our love. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, it's nice that there are black women writing TV.
Yeah, and that's it, right? There are moments that could only happen because it's Shonda's show, right? Because, and it's just the small moments. It's not like some big narrative about race. This is another one of my favorite moments because it's a hair moment, and therefore one that only black women can write for each other.
Yes.
It's our second date.
We lived together. I've built you a bookcase. I've watched you press your hair. This is not our second date. It's our 4,000th date.
I have watched you press your hair. Right? In that moment, it conveys all the intimacy in the world. Like, as soon as he watched her press her hair. Oh, they're tight.
Or they were tight.
Right.
Or they should have been tight. And you're talking to someone who shaves her hair.
Right.
So, but at the same time, that's how I've expressed intimacy with my partners, is I've had my partners shave my hair.
Right.
So they can say to me when I become an Olivia Pope, Andrea, I shaved your hair at one point.
Right. We're tight, girl.
And it's like, no, we're not anymore. And that's really much what Olivia was saying in that scene was, yes, you've seen this, but I'm still not in love with you. That just because you've seen that intimate moment with me in what we would call that quote-unquote black girl moment, that doesn't mean therefore I'm still beholden to you as your lover. I love you. Thank you so much for the good times and the great relationship, but I don't want you.
Now, speaking of intimacy, my favorite couple on the show is Cyrus and James.
Can we talk about those two?
Can we please talk about Cyrus and James?
Wow.
Right, so Cyrus is the gay Republican chief of staff.
The Dick Cheney.
He is Dick Cheney. And yet the fact that they are a same-sex couple is not ever really the point, right? It's the humanity of their relationship.
Well, and it's also, we're talking about a really bizarre world, right? Where we have the two people who have done everything for the Republican president is a black woman and a gay man, right? So that's clearly only in Hollywood, right? And we have a Republican who, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember this, but this is sort of like a pet issue for us at Demos, is trying to get into the conversation something about a public jobs program for the millions of long-term unemployed and youth. And this is where these worlds collide for me. In his big State of the Union, this Republican president put out there a public jobs program for youth. This big national story. I was like, that is only in Hollywood. The Republican would do that.
The choices that that Shonda Rhimes made in this thing, they're all kind of very interesting along those lines. That it's a Republican president, and I'm told that Kerry Washington had some way in on the idea that it's a white president, that it wouldn't be analogous in any way to Barack Obama. And these sort of choices that they made to make it Republicans and sort of play these issues out in a non-traditional way.
She said it in Ebony magazine. She said she wouldn't have wanted to play the role had the president been black, both because she would not have wanted to have this idea that somehow she and President Obama were in a scandalous relationship, right?
Yeah, and I feel that it's the same thing. I think she wouldn't have done the show if it wasn't for Shonda Rhimes, right? And Shonda Rhimes is pretty much everything. Like, I watched her since Princess Diaries 2, which she wrote, and I have it on DVD.
I know, right?
And the fact that she created 2 hit shows, right? Private Practice and Grey's Anatomy, and she has used all the clout that she has had to have a black woman at the center of her universe. And in a sense, it's not just Olivia Pope. It's also Shonda Rhimes. She's writing herself, and that's so powerful to me about the whole
I am so appreciative that, I don't know, I could lose my job after this because, Scandal is not on an NBC network. But I just needed a moment with some red wine and my girlfriends because I just appreciate her. So thanks to my lady panel, Joy and Heather and Andrea and Janet.
Absolutely.
Now, when we come back, we're talking about our foot soldiers. Cheers, everybody. Yay.
Absolutely.